New Year's travel mistakes are usually small. A turn you take because your GPS suggests it. A place you stay because it feels warm and available. A train you board because it's the last one running. Nothing dramatic, nothing reckless. Just ordinary decisions made late at night, when systems are quiet and no one is checking anymore. Tonight's stories aren't about monsters or violence or sudden danger. They're about what happens when something keeps working and no one is paying attention to who's still there. I took a detour on New Year's Eve because my GPS said it would save 12 minutes. That was the only reason. Not weather, not traffic, not instinct. Just a small blue line on a screen confidently rerouting us off the highway and onto a county road I didn't recognize. My wife was in the passenger seat holding a paper cup of gas station coffee she'd already stopped drinking. Our son was asleep in the back, still in his coat, his head tilted forward at an uncomfortable angle we'd fix when we stopped. We'd left my sister's place later than planned. Midnight had come and gone quietly, the way it does when everyone is already tired. We were trying to reach a hotel in St. Joseph before prices jumped again. The highway was clear, dry pavement, light traffic, the kind of drive where your mind goes flat and you trust the systems around you to handle the details. Then the GPS chimed, faster route available. The exit was a simple off-ramp, well lit. No warning signs, no cones, nothing to suggest it wasn't meant to be used. I took it. The county road was paved and clean, but the signs changed almost immediately. Still reflective, still upright, just older, thicker metal, fewer words, no billboards, no gas station logos, no fast food signs glowing in the distance, just fields, trees, and the road narrowing slightly as it cut through the dark. The first irregularity came about 10 minutes in. On the right shoulder, angled toward the ditch, was a beige sedan. No lights, no hazard flashers, no snow around it. Just parked, as if someone had pulled over and walked away. I slowed out of habit and glanced around for a person. There wasn't one. My wife noticed it too, but she didn't comment. We both assumed the same thing, that someone would come back for it. We kept driving. A few miles later, a sign appeared. Local access road, detour traffic must register. It wasn't a warning, it wasn't temporary, it was instructional. Ahead, the road widened into a small pull-off area lit by a single sodium lamp. Under the light sat an unattended kiosk, metal housing, thick glass, keypad, ticket slot. A white pickup truck idled beside it, headlights off. A man in a reflective vest stood near the kiosk with his hands in his pockets. No radio, no flashlight, no sense of urgency. I pulled in behind the pickup because it felt like the correct thing to do. The man stepped closer as I rolled down my window. "Evening," he said. "It's morning," I replied without thinking. He nodded slightly, like that distinction didn't matter. "Detour registration," he said. "You'll need to log before continuing." "We're just following GPS," my wife said. He didn't react to that. "Register at the kiosk," he repeated. "Print the slip. Display it on the dash. Stay on the marked route." The pickup rolled forward and merged back onto the road without conversation. "Is there a toll?" I asked. "Not a toll," the man said. "It's a log." He looked at my face for a second longer than necessary. Not suspicious, just confirming that I matched whatever he'd already accepted. I parked and got out. The cold felt sharper under the light. The kiosk screen came on slowly when I touched it. Local access registration, select vehicle type, passenger car, truck, RV, motorcycle. I chose passenger car. It asked for my plate number, state, number of occupants, then exit point. The map wasn't detailed, just 4 options: North Gate, South Gate, East Gate, West Gate. My GPS still showed the route, but it didn't list any gates. I chose North Gate because we were heading north. The kiosk printed a thick paper slip. Local access road, Detour traffic log plate number, timestamp. Occupants 3, exit North Gate. At the bottom, keep visible. Failure to display may result in route redirection. I placed it on the dashboard. The man leaned in slightly to check it. "Thank you," he said, stepping back. No instruction, no farewell, just completion. We drove on. Within minutes, I noticed the GPS had changed. The route line was still there, but the voice directions had stopped. The map no longer updated when I zoomed. It stayed static, like it had yielded control. The road ahead was marked by small reflective placards on posts, white rectangles with black numbers. 12, 12, 12. Then, after a curve, 13. The repetition drew my attention without effort. I found myself looking for the next placard and feeling a quiet relief when it appeared. A few miles later, we passed the beige sedan again. Same color, same angle, same missing hubcap. It was parked farther ahead than it should have been. I didn't say anything. Neither did my wife. The first verification point came shortly after. A narrow bridge over a dry creek bed led to another pull-off area. Another light. Another person. This one wore a sheriff's jacket, unzipped, no hat. Hands in his pockets like he was cold. A sign on a pole read, "Stop. Verify slip." I stopped. He approached the window. "Slip," he said. I pointed to it on the dash. He read it, nodded once. "Occupants match?" he asked. "Yes." He glanced briefly toward the back seat, then back at the slip. "Proceed to your exit," he said. "Do not deviate." My wife opened her mouth to ask something, then closed it. We drove on. The pattern set in after that. Every 10 or 15 minutes, another checkpoint. Different people, same process. A county worker with a clipboard. An older man leaning out of a pickup. A woman in a windbreaker holding a handheld scanner. Each time, the slip was checked. Each time, approval was given. No one asked where we were going, like the destination had already been decided. I noticed I was slowing down before each checkpoint without deciding to. The road itself stayed functional. No ice, no debris, just darkness and farmland and the quiet rhythm of compliance. At one point, the placards changed. Numbers gave way to letters. N, 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 north. When we passed the beige sedan again, I did the math and stopped trying to explain it. The final verification point was unmanned. A small roadside office sat back from the road, porch light on, blinds drawn. A sign read, "Self-verify. Scan slip." I stopped and fed the slip into the scanner slot. A mechanical sound, then a recorded voice. "Thank you. Proceed to North Gate. Maintain route compliance." The slip did not return. The green light turned solid. My wife looked at me. "They kept it," she said. "It's a log," I replied, and realized I was using their language. The placards now read only N. A few minutes later, the gate appeared. Not a fence, a toll-style gate, crossbar lowered, keypad on a post, a sign overhead, "North Gate, exit Detour traffic." I stopped. The screen lit up. "Enter plate number," I typed it. "Occupant count," I entered 3. A pause. Then, "Exit confirmed. Thank you for compliance." The barrier lifted. Nothing about it felt like being allowed to go. It felt like being finished with. We passed through and merged onto a state highway with normal signs and normal traffic. My phone regained service. The GPS voice returned, cheerful and unbothered. We reached the hotel without incident. Later, after my wife and son were asleep, my phone buzzed. A text message. No number. Just a header. "Local access log, Detour traffic. Exit confirmed plate, my plate, occupants 3. Exit North Gate." Thank you for compliance. There was a link beneath it. I didn't open it. The message is still there, buried in my phone. No sender, no reply option. And the thing that stays with me isn't fear. It's how easily we adapted. How natural it felt to stop asking questions once the process accepted us. Because whatever that road was, it didn't trap us. It only asked us to follow instructions. Detours are loud in your head after they're over. But comfort can be worse. Because comfort doesn't feel like a mistake until you try to leave. I booked the Airbnb because it looked warm. That was the only thing I cared about. Not views, not distance from town, not whether the place photographed well. Just warmth. The kind that makes you loosen your shoulders when you walk in. The kind that tells you you're done moving for a while. We didn't want a party, we didn't want crowds. New Year's was already loud enough everywhere else. The listing was a cabin in northern Vermont, a few miles outside a town I'd never been to. The reviews were repetitive in a way that felt reassuring. Different names, different dates, same tone. Quiet, comfortable, didn't want to leave. That phrase came up more than once. Check-in was digital. Lockbox code sent that morning. A short message from the host wishing us a safe drive and reminding us to take the last mile slowly if it snowed. When we arrived, it was already dark. Snow had started falling in a thin, steady way that made the headlights feel muted. The driveway was plowed but narrow, tire ruts packed down and refrozen. Inside, the cabin was already warm. Not warming up, warm. The air felt settled, like it had been holding heat for hours. Lights were on in the main room. A small speaker on the kitchen counter was playing instrumental music at a low volume. Nothing about it was alarming. It felt prepared. There were 4 of us, me, my girlfriend, and 2 friends I'd known since college. We stepped inside, shut the door, and let the cold stay outside where it belonged. The place was laid out carefully. Too carefully maybe, but not in a way that felt wrong yet. Fresh towels folded on the couch, not in a closet. A basket of snacks on the table with store-brand packaging still intact. Cabinets labeled in neat handwriting. A binder on the counter titled Winter Guest Information. On the refrigerator, held up by a pine-shaped magnet, was a handwritten note. Welcome. Make yourselves at home. Extra blankets are in the hall closet. Please keep the wood stove latched. The handwriting was consistent. Block letters. Steady, not rushed. My girlfriend smiled when she read it. They actually care, she said. That was the feeling the cabin encouraged. Care, thoughtfulness. The sense that someone had anticipated your needs and removed friction from your stay. The first irregularity came when I opened the hall closet. Inside were folded quilts stacked in neat piles, thicker than I expected, heavy. On top of the stack was another note, clipped to the fabric with a small wooden clothespin. Please take only 1 quilt per person. The rest are for overnight temperature drops. It made sense. Vermont winters, old cabins, temperature swings. Still, it felt specific. I took 1 quilt and closed the door. We cooked dinner. Pasta, wine, easy food. Outside, the snow picked up, still quiet, still steady. Inside, the cabin stayed evenly warm without any of us touching the thermostat. At some point, one of my friends opened the binder. It wasn't rules. It was guidance. Pages about the stove, the driveway, quiet hours, emergency contacts. All written in the same neutral, careful tone. Near the back was a guest book. Most of the entries were short. Names, dates, thank yous. But I noticed something odd as I flipped through. Several entries ended the same way. Ended up staying an extra night. Didn't want to leave. Hard to go back after this, not alarming, just a pattern. We lit the wood stove around 9, even though the cabin didn't need it. The fire made the space feel finished, like we'd completed a ritual. Inside the stove door, taped neatly, was another handwritten note. Please latch after adding wood. Sparks travel farther than you think. One of my friends laughed. Someone definitely screwed this up before, he said. And that explanation worked. Previous guests, liability, hosts trying to protect their property. We counted down quietly, clinked glasses, took photos we didn't really care about. After midnight, the music shifted, not abruptly, no jolt, just a gradual change to slower tracks. I noticed because I hadn't touched the speaker. Did you change that? I asked. My girlfriend shook her head. Probably a playlist, she said. Smart speaker thing. It was plausible. It was also convenient. The new music matched the way the night was settling. One of my friends fell asleep on the couch with a quilt pulled up to his chin. The warmth made it feel normal, encouraged even. When I got up to get water, the kitchen light turned on as I entered and shut off behind me when I left. Motion sensor, I told myself. Still, I checked the light switch. It was labeled auto after 11 p.m. The environment wasn't reacting to us, it was following a schedule. At 1:17 a.m., my phone buzzed with a message from the host. Hope you're settling in. Snow's supposed to get heavier overnight. No rush in the morning. Roads are better after daylight. Friendly, sensible. Framed staying as the mature option. I didn't respond. Time passed without urgency. We talked less. The cabin did the rest. Sometime after 1, I noticed a folded piece of paper on the coffee table. I'm careful here. I can't say it wasn't there before. I can only say I hadn't noticed it. Same handwriting. If you hear the wind pick up, it's best to stay inside. The porch steps ice over quickly. I looked out the window. Snow. Darkness. A faint glaze on the railing. It fit the situation. It also made the idea of stepping outside feel irresponsible. I folded the note and set it back down without comment. That's how the pattern formed, not notes appearing. Notes being available exactly when they were useful. The next morning we woke late. The cabin was warmer than the night before. The thermostat read 72. No one remembered touching it. We made coffee, pancakes. The snow outside was deeper. The driveway softened but not cleared again. Another note sat on the inside of the front door. If you plan to go out, let your vehicle warm fully. Do not spin tires in the driveway ruts. Again, reasonable. Again, framing movement as a risk. Late morning, another message from the host. Plows are behind today. Honestly, if you can stay in, it's safer. Happy to extend. No additional lodging charge if you check out tomorrow. No additional charge. Staying was now framed as generosity. Leaving was framed as stubbornness. The cabin stayed warm. The lights followed their schedule. The music softened automatically in the evenings. At one point, I lowered the thermostat to 68. Within minutes, my girlfriend commented on the chill. One of my friends pulled his quilt tighter. The cabin hadn't changed. The people had. Later in the bathroom, I noticed another note taped beside the mirror. The heat is set for guest comfort. If you're cold, it's okay to turn it back up. Not a reprimand. Permission. It made my small act of defiance feel unnecessary. Petty. That was the realization. The cabin didn't trap you. It made leaving feel like poor judgment. Like you were choosing discomfort for no reason. That afternoon, I opened the guest book again. Near the back, newer entries followed the same pattern. Stayed longer than planned. Didn't want to leave once we were settled. No one described why. No excitement. Just acceptance. I told everyone we were leaving that evening, not tomorrow. That evening, the reaction was immediate. Why? It's snowing. This is the safest place we could be. They weren't wrong. The comfort was real, but so was the pressure. We packed slowly. The cabin stayed warm the entire time. as if it had decided to remain generous to the end. At the door, one last note. If you do go out, drive slow. Come back safe. Come back. I took it down and folded it into my pocket without comment. The drive out was uncomfortable. The road was slick. The cold felt sharper after hours of warmth. At a gas station miles away, my phone buzzed with a charge notification. Additional heat usage. $48 details. Thermostat adjustment. Extended heat cycle. No argument, no explanation. Just an itemized reminder that comfort had conditions. Weeks later, I found the folded note in my jacket pocket. Come back safe. I threw it away. But even now, when heat turns on automatically somewhere, when warmth arrives before I ask for it, I still think about how easy it was to stay, and how strange it felt to choose the cold. Some mistakes pull you into a system. Some mistakes hold you in comfort. And sometimes the worst mistake is taking the last option available, because it's quiet and it's running and no one is paying attention. I took the last train home on New Year's Eve because it was still listed as running. That was the only reason. I didn't feel rushed. I didn't feel nervous. I just didn't want to stay in the city any longer than I had to. I'd been in Chicago for work. The kind of trip that ends quietly. No dinner plans, no coworkers hanging around, just a hotel room you check out of early and a bag you drag through slush. By the time I reached Union Station, it was already after midnight. The main hall was quieter than usual, but not empty. People were scattered in winter coats, sitting on benches, standing near walls, all doing the same thing, looking down at their phones and waiting for something to finish. Fireworks popped somewhere outside, faint enough to feel more like punctuation than celebration. According to the transit app, my commuter line was still operating with reduced holiday service. One last departure. Platform listed. Green status indicator. I followed the signs down to the lower level. The ticket machines were there, lined up against the wall. Two were dark, screens off. One was working, but a small group had formed in front of it, people squinting at the display and tapping impatiently. I already had money loaded on my transit card. I didn't need a machine. I walked to the gate. The gate was open, not forced open, not flashing an error. Just open, like it had been set that way intentionally. I tapped my card anyway. There was no beep, no red light, no message. The screen stayed blank. I waited a second longer than I normally would, then stepped through. There was nothing telling me I couldn't. The platform was half lit. Some overhead lights were on, others flickered. The departure board above the track scrolled through information that looked normal until you noticed it was cycling the same two entries. A few passengers stood spaced out along the platform. No groups, no conversations. Everyone facing the tracks or their phones. When the train arrived, it did so without the usual announcement. No chime, just the sound of metal slowing and doors opening. I boarded, found a seat near the center of the car, and put my bag on the floor. The doors closed. We left the station. The first irregularity was the absence of something expected. No conductor. Normally, even on late runs, someone walks the car. Someone checks tickets or scans cards or at least passes through once. That didn't happen. The car was quiet. The heater worked. The lights were dim but steady. Outside the windows, the city slid past. Industrial buildings, chain-link fences, warehouses lit from within. Occasional flashes of fireworks reflected in the glass, distant and muted. I checked the time. 12:41 a.m. We should have reached the first stop. We didn't slow. We passed through a station without stopping. I recognized the platform from previous trips. It was lit, empty. No one reacted. I told myself it was a holiday reroute, reduced service, maintenance. all normal explanations. The pattern formed gradually. We passed another station, then another. Each time the train maintained speed. Each time the passengers remained still, shoulders rounded, faces tilted down toward their screens. No one sighed. No one shifted in frustration. No one stood near the doors. The silence wasn't tense. It was procedural. I checked the app again. The trip still showed as active, status unchanged, as if everything was proceeding normally. At 1:05 a.m., the train passed through an area I didn't recognize. The buildings outside were lower, older. The track noise changed, slightly rougher, a different rhythm. I looked for a map inside the car. There wasn't one. At some point I realized I hadn't heard a single announcement since boarding. Not a delay notice, not a station name, not even a recorded message about safety. The system wasn't communicating, it was just operating. At 1:14 a.m. the train slowed briefly. Not enough to stop, just enough to make the motion noticeable. Outside I saw a maintenance facility set back from the tracks. A single garage door open, light spilling onto concrete. A worker stood near the entrance, looking down at something in his hands. The train passed without acknowledgement. Inside the car, nothing changed. I stood up and walked toward the end of the car. Between cars, there was a small intercom panel with an emergency button. I stood in front of it for a moment. I didn't press it. There was no indication that I should. No sign saying something was wrong. The train was moving. The doors were closed. The passengers were calm. Silence doesn't stop you. It just removes the signal that you're allowed to interrupt. I returned to my seat. At 1:29 a.m., my phone vibrated. A notification from my transit account. Trip history updated. I opened it. There was no active trip listed, no pending fare, no record of entry. The previous entry was dated December 30th. I refreshed the app, logged out and back in. Nothing changed. I looked around the car. Everyone else remained exactly where they had been, heads down, fingers scrolling in small, repetitive motions. No one checked the doors. No one checked the windows. The train continued forward. At 1:43 a.m., we slowed again. This time the train stopped. The doors did not open. We were in a dark stretch of track. Outside the windows was gravel and low brush, barely visible in the dim light. We waited. No announcement, no explanation. After a minute, the train resumed movement. That was the moment the realization settled. I hadn't done anything wrong. I hadn't been denied entry. I simply hadn't been recorded. Without the beep at the gate, without a logged trip, the system wasn't obligated to account for me. Not as a passenger, not as a problem, just not at all. At 2:02 a.m., the train slowed once more. Ahead, a small platform appeared, bare concrete, a single light pole, no signage. The train stopped. The doors opened. Cold air rushed into the car. No announcement accompanied it. No one moved. The passengers stayed seated, eyes on their phones as if the open doors were irrelevant. I waited for someone else to stand. No one did. After a few seconds, I stood, walked to the door, and stepped down onto the platform. No one looked up. The doors remained open behind me for several seconds, then they closed. The train pulled away. I was alone under the light. There was a stairwell at the end of the platform leading up to street level. No signs, no map, just stairs. I climbed them. At the top, I emerged onto a quiet residential street. Snow lined the curbs. A few streetlights hummed. The street sign named a neighborhood I recognized, but not one that made sense for my line. I walked until I reached a main road and ordered a rideshare. The driver didn't ask questions. When I got home, I did what I always do after travel. I checked receipts, notifications, the small records that prove movement. My diner receipt was there. The rideshare receipt was there. My phone's location history showed a straight line between Union Station and the street where I ordered the car, with no intermediate stops. That happens sometimes when signal drops. The next morning, I logged into my transit account on my laptop. There was still no record of the trip, no fare, no entry. I called customer service later that week. I explained that I believed the gate reader hadn't registered my card. The woman on the phone asked for the station, the time, the card number. I gave her everything. She put me on hold. When she came back, her tone hadn't changed. "We don't show a tap-in at that station during that window," she said. "I walked through an open gate," I told her. There was a brief pause. "If there's no tap-in," she said, "there's no trip." I asked about camera footage. "We retain footage," she said. "But footage is attached to incidents or logged entries. Without a recorded trip, there's nothing to reference. No accusation, no apology, just procedure." I thanked her and hung up. That's the final trace. No charge, no footage, no record that I was ever on that train. And now, when I pass through a station late at night and see a gate standing open, I still tap my card, even when there's no beep, because I've learned how easy it is to move through a system quietly, and how little it notices when you do. A detour can become a system. A warm room can become a reason to stay. A quiet platform can make you disappear without effort. None of these stories needed a monster. They only needed you to accept what was offered: directions, comfort, silence, and keep moving as if the world was still tracking you. If you're traveling this new year, take the longer route. Step into the cold, wait for the beep, and if you don't get one, don't assume it means you're safe.